Hey there, soccer fans. Welcome on to this week's episode of Between the Posts, where we preview the upcoming weekend in the Premier League. He's, of course, Matt, and I'm, of course, Jason. What's going on there, Matt?
Interesting week one, to say the least. Lots to talk about. Lots to talk about, I think, this week in terms of injuries, signings, how everyone looked in week one. So excited to break down the slate with you as always.
Yep, you're exactly right about that. We'll go ahead and open that comment section up as we go through these 9 games of the Premier League. Let us know what some of your favorite bets are or what some of your leans are. Matt, I want to do something real quick, kind of connect last week to this week. We talked about on last week's show, we talked about Wolves. We talked about how they were going to be a team that was going to be relegated or maybe in the relegation fight. And you gave out a really good bet on last week's show. You took their manager to be the first one that's sacked. I want to congratulate you on the first bad beat of the season, because that is not the first manager that gets sacked, because that bet gets graded the first ball that's kicked, which would have been Friday, Burnley City. He, of course, quit. So you had a great angle, man. You were robbed of an excellent future hit. I feel your pain over there.
Yeah, that's just reading in between the lines and saying, he was very unhappy. But, Wolves, they looked sharp last week. They were very sharp, very fit, and they had a good game plan. So I think, and their manager that they signed was, the guy that kept Bournemouth up last year. So I think that they made a really shrewd move to get him in there quickly. And, man, they looked fit and ready to go.
Yeah, that was definitely a good match. Well, I don't know what point we'll get to it, but United's just fortunate that wasn't either better finishing or a better team, or they get thumped 4-0, 5-0 at home. That was a dreadful performance at Old Trafford. The other thing I want to talk about real quick before we get into these matches is I need you to tell me, because I still don't understand, how's Onana cleaning out what's his face not a penalty? You've probably seen the highlight. How is that not a penalty?
If that isn't clear and obvious, Jason, then I don't know what is. I still don't know what a penalty is. I thought there was another one. I thought that in the Liverpool match on the corner, I don't know if you saw that, the flick on header from Diaz. His hand was out. I'm kind of lagging a bit here. Can you see me? Okay, there we go. His hand is out to here, which, yes, you could say that was a natural position, but it really affected where that ball was going, which was going towards the net. I thought that one was very weird. But yeah, like you mentioned, the clear and obvious Onana foul, and now those referees are suspended for this week, and I think rightly so.
Oh yeah, you're gonna miss a call, and we're human, so okay, you're gonna miss a call. One of my biggest problem is within minutes, John Moss is already apologizing. That you just made the decision 5 minutes ago. Spend an extra 30 seconds and get that call right. I shouldn't be apologizing 5 minutes late. If you want to apologize 24 hours later, okay, but when you apologize 5 minutes later, it looks like it's rigged as hell. It looks like it's rigged when it's a 5-minute apology later. That looks rad.
That one looked rigged, and supposedly this year we are able to hear the video and the audio really of the VAR and the consultation of that piece. I'm waiting for that one to be released. I'd love to hear the conversation behind that, because that one was wild.
I think if I recall correctly, Howard Webb said they're only going to release the audio on select games. Perhaps that's not a select game, or one that they want to all of a sudden make a select game. That's the problem with that rule. It's select games, so they're going to be picking and choosing which ones they release. I can't imagine they release that audio.
I mean, that's Monday Night Football. Can you imagine in the NFL? I mean, that would be one of the games that would be selected.
Sure.
A Monday Night Football match under the lights. I mean, what the heck is that? So I can see them wanting to cover that one up. But my God, it should be shared. There should almost be a petition. I'm sure that there would be a million petitions signed to have that one released.
Unreal stuff. Okay. All right, that's match week 1 in the Premier League. Let's go ahead and turn our attention now to match week number 2. Let's kick it off with Friday matchup we've got Forest taking on Sheffield. And this was one of the matchups where I'm kind of most excited. here on the card, because we're catching Forest at home, which we know that's their sweet spot. Remember, Matt, they were 20th in the league on away table last year with a minus 33 goal differential. At home, they were a 10th place team with a positive goal differential, picking up 30 of their 38 points at home. I'm catching Forest here at home, and not only am I catching Forest at home, I'm catching them against Sheffield, which when Sheffield looks at all the fixtures up for this upcoming campaign, this is one where they've got to give it a go. They're going to be probably fighting for relegation. This is a championship team, so to speak. You got two teams that are very familiar themselves with the championship. Hell, they just played in the playoff 2 seasons ago, which Forest was able to squeak by them and eventually earn the promotion. Sheffield can't afford to come into this one defensively, because that's what they're going to do against a lot of the bigger clubs. This is an opponent where they're going to think, well, we've got to give it a go. We think we can get some form of result here. So because of that, you've been seeing both teams to score hit in the last 4 head-to-heads. I think both teams to score is going to hit in this one. And I also think Forest is going to get the edge in terms of winning the game, hitting a team total. I think we're in for a real cracker here on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, this is one at first glance I looked at and just immediately glanced over, really. But I think that you've persuaded me here a bit, to get on the home side. We know that Forest they've been strong in the Premier League. You just kind of outlined it, and it backs it up by the stats. 13 of the last 15 home matches for Forest, they're unbeaten, which we need them to win this match. So the unbeaten, that would include draws as well. We need them to win here, but we know that it's kind of been a fortress for Forest. And then when you look on the flip side too, we know that Forest defense isn't great. So like you mentioned, Sheffield should want to have a go here. And then when you look at the stats though from last week, Sheffield, a home opening fixture in the Premier League, something to try to get behind against a Palace team that everyone's having question marks over. They get dominated here, Jason. The expected goals, 0.39 for Sheffield to 1.58 for Crystal Palace. So the result was not misleading whatsoever. Palace deserved that victory, 1-0 on the road. And so you're looking, how can I get on Forest here? And Forest very good at home, so that checks that box. They looked pretty good too when you look at the fact of, look, they went up against one of the best teams in this league and played them pretty competitively. They actually won the XG battle against Arsenal. They deserved more. You look at Saka cutting in on his left, best player, one of the best players in the league, has a goal that's like a 0.1 expected goal, and you just can't do anything about that. He's such a great player. But Forest, they cover their handicap last week. If you bet on Forest plus 1.5, you ended up cashing that ticket. And it makes me think that I'd like to be with Forest here, if anything. It's the home side for me or pass, but I do think that you could get, a little bit more here. You could maybe go both teams to score and Forest to win. That would be a really big price here because we know that Forest's defense is susceptible to giving up goals. And so, yeah, it's really home side for me or pass.
Yeah, the money line's minus 115, and I like it for everything that you've kind of added to that. I expect Forest to pick up the 3 points here. That both teams to score in a Forest win. You're right. You've played that a couple of times last season. You start getting to the plus 200s in those bets, and I think that is a fantastic angle in this one. Sheffield, you're right, dreadful at home. But that was against a Premier League team, and Palace, who's always kind of in the Premier League. They have got to give this one a full-on fight against Forest. So love the angle, love Forest, kicking off maybe a Friday afternoon win there. So like that one right there. Let's move it along where we've got Fulham taking on Brentford, where we've got Adrian in the comments section. He's wondering if we can do a Fulham money line and hit an over 1.5 in this game. I'll tell you, Adrian, you're probably well aware, both of these fixtures last year was 3-2, 3-2. So goals aplenty, 5 total goals in each game. Fulham have dropped off, though. Remember, no Mitrovic, or I can't imagine he's going to play in the game. He's heavily linked now to joining the Saudi Arabia Pro League. So likely going to hold him out if that transfer is not already completed, I think, by Saturday kickoff. We know he's been replaced by Raul Jimenez. It's just not as good as Mitrovic at all. I'm worried a little bit for this Brentford team. I'm worried, quite frankly, Adrian, for this over. I am a little worried. Brentford's just not as strong on the road. We loved that over 2.5 last week, Matt, Brentford versus Tottenham, and we were rewarded with an easy first half cash. Brentford just isn't the same on the road. I'm a little bit nervous for you, Adrian. I'm a little nervous for the Fulham money line, and I'm quite frankly a little nervous for the over. What about for you, Matt?
Yeah, Fulham win and over 1.5 goals is plus 250 right now at DraftKings, and it's not somewhere that I would be going. I mean, this is one to look at. I think that you have to look at the head-to-head, Jason, and look at goals. And I mean, you look at last week, Brentford in the 2-2. I mean, their defending wasn't great. Tottenham really dominated better stretches of that match, but Brentford really looked good on the counter attack at times, and they posed a threat consistently. Yeah, I don't have a feel on the winners market here, but I do think that the over 2.5 here is where I would go. I would just go with a straight over 2.5 minus 110 if I had to play this one, just because I still think that Fulham have the attacking DNA, and I think that Brentford do as well. You look, 10 goals in the head-to-head last year. I mean, we don't need that many. We don't need the 5 in each match. We just need 3 here to cash our ticket. And Fulham, they had a very nice victory last week on the road. And if you look at the XG in that one too, that was one that was lopsided a bit. If I remember correctly, I want to pull it up just to get the exact number. But Everton really won that XG battle. They just could not finish. It was the classic Neil Maupay not finishing off big chances. The stats, so Fulham won that battle. They had 1.56 expected goals. They allowed 3.07 expected goals, but did not concede. So their defense looked shaky. And then on the flip side, you look at the Brentford Tottenham, that XG battle. Brentford created 2.07 expected goals, despite only having 31% of the possession to Tottenham's 1.37. So you factor that all in. This looks pretty good for both teams to score yes and over 2.5. And then we've talked about that many times on the show. When the over 2.5 though is just at a flat minus 110, I'd be more interested in that than trying to get tricky with it and go to plus money at, like, you're going to get like plus 125 maybe on both teams to score an over 2.5. I think that the flat over 2.5 has to here.
Yeah, all right. Maybe the over is the play. Don't worry about trying to pick a winner there, Adrian. Just sit back and root for goals between Fulham and Brentford. I can see that, Matt. All right, let's move it along now. We've got Anfield. They're going to have their home debut this campaign, where they're going to welcome Bournemouth into town, which last year they beat them 9-0 at home. I don't know if we're going to get 9-0, but I do expect an absolute beatdown here. This is a Liverpool squad that is healthy across their front line. So when Nunez comes in a minute 65, 70, I think the goals are going to keep on coming. I cannot come off of Liverpool team total. It's over 2.5 goals at about minus 115 over on FanDuel. I cannot see Bournemouth hanging with Liverpool in any capacity, in this game. It's going to be an absolute beating. Take Mohamed Salah to be a goal scorer at minus 130 if you want. There's going to be goals aplenty. Bournemouth just struggle. And somebody may put in the comment section, well, the reverse fixture was 1-0 at Bournemouth. That was different because that was in March, and that one was Liverpool was beat up. They didn't have anything that could come in minutes 65, 70 and change the game. Now they have that because they've got a healthy attacking line. And this is at Anfield. Everything's a lot different than it was back in March when they lost 1-0. So I throw that out, and I look more at that 9-0 result earlier in the campaign when they were healthy back in August and they were clicking. Season was young. And that's what I'm looking for. It's a Liverpool team total for me. This is an absolute smash spot. And if you want to ladder it, cool. Ladder it for all I care.
Yeah, and I believe that this is the first leg, and we'll get to later maybe, of our 2-team parlay that we're going to be doing weekly on the show. So when you break this one down, I don't expect the 9-0, of course, and I don't expect Liverpool to get beat. We can talk about the signing that they made and all of the transfer drama last week. I mean, after we did the show 2 weeks ago, but my gosh, yeah, the Caicedos, The Lavia news, not getting either of them, and both of them going to Chelsea was just really deflating for me. But they did make a signing, Referral Endo from Stuttgart. I have watched a lot of film. I've never watched so much film really on somebody that I didn't know. He does, the stats really are nice. Comes from a poor club that he's been able to captain their side to just being able to stay in that league. I don't expect him to debut here, but everyone's kind of picking on Liverpool right now and their defense and the defensive midfield in particular. But this is a match where it shouldn't matter. And one thing that we both know is that this front line is healthy and ready to go. No one's going to question Liverpool's quality up front and the depth that they have. So yeah, this is a really tough angle. It's a tough game to bet just with the money line being where it is. I know it's come down a little bit. It was in the minus 500s. It's been rightly so. I think bet down a little bit. I think that some people think that Bournemouth can stay competitive here. Their manager, the new one, he's been able to provide some worldies in Spain, to keep his squad up there, and he's a very defensive-minded manager. So I would expect them to have a low block. But the one thing that I think this year that Liverpool will be able to do that they haven't had in a while is with the McAllisters and the Szoboszlais of the world is break those low blocks down. They've got those creative midfielders versus what they've had in the past when you're looking at Milner and Henderson, Wijnaldum. Those weren't very creative players to break down low blocks. So I think that they'll have enough here. I do like the team total angle just because this offensive line is fresh and ready. But it's really just kind of a no bet watching brief for me. See what Bournemouth look like. See how Liverpool can handle this first match at Anfield. And I expect them to be able to grab all 3 points.
You mean bet you're willing to tell people you degenerate your side? How many bets you got on this game, Matt? What's your same game parlay? No. How many legs you got in that sucker?
No, there's none here. And I'm one of those guys that's never scared to bet against my team too when I feel like they're not doing well or something like that. Because I do feel like I know them best. So I know when they're going to come into a fixture and not maybe look as good. So expect them to get the job done here, but there's still a lot of unknowns. And they just need to be worried. Bournemouth do have players now. If you look at their roster, they've got some good counter-attacking ability players. So, they've got to be able to snuff out those counterattacks here.
Yeah, I think they'll handle business relatively easy. Cover the margin, cover the team total. Speaking on Endo there for half a minute, that's presumably your CDM of the future. You said it. They tried to get Casiero. They tried to get Lavia. His transfer fee is about $18 million, so call it $100 million less than Casiero. Matt, I actually think this is an absolute fantastic sign. This is the guy that also captains the Japanese national team. He was really good at Qatar. Are you trying to tell me Casiero's $100 million quality better than Endo? Not $100 million. I think at the end of the day, they're going to think, hell yeah, but good to miss out on Casiero. We got Endo, a guy who captains club team, captains national team. He's a good CDM, and we get him for $100 million cheaper. This is going to be a good signing when you look back 2 seasons from now. I'm going to like everything about this guy and like everything about their recruitment process. So I like them. I think this is fantastic business for Liverpool.
Yeah, they didn't panic. They didn't panic. That was, kind of the reports like, look, we missed out on these 2 guys. Let's not panic, but let's make a move here. And the differences in the fee are really just downright due to age. So if we can get a couple 30, quality seasons out of Endo, we will find another young CDM here in the next couple seasons. Yeah. This, at least you come in and you get immediate experience. That's something this team needs after losing out on somebody like Henderson and Milner and all of those guys. So, and Fabinho. Yeah. So, this guy, he doesn't have he has a really great injury track record too. He hasn't really been injured. He looks the part. He really does. So, and that's what they need. They just need a destroyer to protect that back line.
Yeah, to get back to your injury thing, he's missed 2 games in the last 3 seasons for club and country. So a guy that absolutely stays incredibly fit throughout an entire campaign. Yeah, I like everything about this one. All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention now. We've got the Molyneux now. We've got Wolves. They're going to welcome Brighton into town. And last week we had our easy over of Brentford at Tottenham. For me personally, I think this is going to be your easy over the week where you've got Wolves taking on Brighton. One of the reasons I like this, and you try and not, you obviously watch each week and you try and learn from it, was Wolves really stinking good in attack because United got lucky. Again, that was some poor finishing, or they lose probably 4-0, 5-0 in that game. Or did you like United have a really off game? Because they got around Mason Mount pretty much way too easily, and they were leaving Casemiro on an island all by himself with Mount and Bruno both pushing up. So not really sure what was at fault right there, but do have to give a lot of credit to Wolves and how they were really bright on the attack, and they were just coming down with pace, with multiple guys outnumbering United's midfield. I like what they saw. I think with them being at home at the Molyneux, that finishing is going to get cleaned up a little bit. Certainly enough cleaned up to get at least one goal. They earned more than one goal, but they didn't get any. But they'll get one here at home. And then we know Brighton, just a team that we love to back. We were on their team total last week in our parlay of the week. That cashed easily as they get 4 goals over Luton Town. And that's a Luton Town team that earned promotion due to how stingy they were. They only allowed 1.26 goals per match in the championship. So they were a very stingy team, and Brighton hits them for 4 goals. This is an easy over 2.5 for me, Matt, at -120.
I agree. I think that, you look at the XG that Wolves created, they look sharp, they look fit, they look ready to go for this season. And you go through Brighton, they've scored one goal or more in every single match of the last 17 in the Premier League. So you can kind of bank on Brighton scoring a goal. I think that you can bank on Wolves scoring one here too. Being at home, they look sharp. They deserved a goal last week. And then, you also look at the head-to-head, Jason. This one last year, it saw 11 goals in the head-to-heads. And then you even go back more, let's say through 2021, 5 of the last 6 between these two have cashed in over 2.5 goals. So that feels good. And yeah, we got a -120 price on this. This is one that I grabbed early. This is one that I feel very good about. Both, just a straight flat over 2.5 goals.
This one, I will say, depending on when you come in, we snagged it at -120. It's around basically -120 now. But if you wanted to tack on both teams to score to get it at plus money, it'll be around about +105. I'm with Matt. I think both teams do find the back of the net. But at -120, I'll just stick to the over 2.5. This should be a great game. This is your over 2.5 spot of the week. We like to always identify maybe the best over or the best under of the week. I was really impressed with Wolves up against United and always impressed with Brighton. So give me an over 2.5 at the Molyneux. Wolves-Brighton, that could be your best bet of the weekend. Let's move it over now
One quick thing too, Jason, real quick, is this is one that I looked at a few days ago. I noticed that Wolves were plus 330 to win this match. That one's been quickly gobbled up. And I thought that price was too big too after how they generally looked at Old Trafford. I would not be on Brighton here in particular. I think that Wolves can grab something from this match, and that's been bet down pretty heavily, about 70 cents now. You can only find Wolves at plus 275 to really win this match. So I think this is a coin flip on who wins it.
I wouldn't try to predict a winner. I mean, you saw Wolves. They're always stingy. They're always gritty. They always fight on defense. That's just their DNA. And now they're going to add in what Gary O'Neill has added. It's a little bit of offense to that, at least up against United. Yeah, easy over. I'm with you. Yeah, avoid a winner in that one. All right, let's go to White Hart Lane now. Tottenham and Manchester United got a little bit of a big boy matchup in this one. We talked about on last week's show, Tottenham is going to be a great over 2.5. When they tweeted their lineup out, I retweeted that lineup out. I was like, oh yeah, Matt and I seem to be right on. This is definitely an over 2.5 lineup. Now they're going to go in this matchup without Romero, likely. Remember, Ruben Diaz suffered a concussion in training. It's a mandatory 7 days out from the Premier League when you get hit with a concussion label. They screwed up in the substitution, didn't label it a concussion, so they kind of got robbed in how they classified it. but it's been now reported that it is a concussion. So now they got hit with the 7 days. That's their best center back in Romero. So they lose him. Their midfield of Basuma and Skip, anything can get through that midfield. It doesn't scare me in terms of what they add to attack, or certainly what they're going to prevent in terms of defense. And then I love Tottenham's attacking line. We talked about it with Charleston, Son, Kulusevski, and Madison. You saw it in his first start in Spurs. He was able to send in some quality balls, even the free kick there where Romero got reconcussed for the second time, was able to head it in. Madison was exactly what that team needed from a playmaker. I think both teams are scoring over 2.5. This one you would have to add on both teams to score, because the over is at around about -145. I see goals. I see both teams contributing. It's another over, and both teams will score for me.
Same for me. This one is one I'm adding. This is a both teams to score an over 2.5 spot. I think that the styles of both teams, it lends itself to having an over. And then you kind of look at the trends as well. Tottenham have succeeded in scoring at least one goal in their last 13 consecutive in the Premier League. And then you look at United, over 2.5 goals have been scored in their last 3 away with Tottenham. They've scored 2+ goals in their last 5 against Spurs. So, yeah, I definitely look at United here. You know, I think that United probably get the job done. I think that draw no bet United is safe. I think that United, I really don't think it was like United as much like looking bad as it was just Wolves playing up, looking fit, ready to go for the season. I just think that was for you and like for United fans, like that was you guys were on the snooze button throughout the entirety of the match in a sense, but you still walk away with 3. So I think that you can look at that as a real bonus instead of looking at it as more of a down, because I just think that Wolves were really up for it and they were really, really sharp. So yeah, both teams to score an over 2.5 goals here for me, -110. I like it.
Yep. The thing I'll add about that is I'm not as confident, I guess, in you thinking maybe United can scrape out. Maybe did you say a win or just scrape out a result in terms of a point? I can't remember if you said win or result.
I think that United are going to win this match.
Okay.
I see this as 2-1 to United, but I think that I would rather be on the goals angle.
Yeah, I still have a problem with them in this matchup in terms of winning. The reason I do is Rashford's not the striker. Every time they play him at the 9, his contribution just isn't there. He's a winger. It's where he thrives, and they're going to put him back out at the 9, assuming Martial isn't fully fit. If Martial's fit, and I see this lineup, and I think Martial can give them, 1 hour and then come off for the last 30 minutes, then I'll like United a lot more, because that'll push Rashford, back out onto the wing where he really thrives. But they're going to score a goal, but man, they look really bad when Rashford has to be the 9. So I'm not as confident in you that we can walk away with 3 points. But at -110 for both teams to score and over 2.5, yeah, that one gets me excited, and that one I'll enjoy watching that one. All right, let's go ahead and now move it over to the Etihad, where we've got Manchester City taking on Newcastle. This is one where I feel like I could talk about a little bit for days here. For one, and Guardiola said it in his press conference yesterday, don't know if you listened, but he said he thanked the Premier League for them playing on Saturday, coming off of Greece on a Wednesday. It is worth mentioning, like, why can't the Premier League have City play on Sunday or Monday? Like, let's protect our teams. Let's protect our players. They played in Greece on a Wednesday, and we've got them playing on Saturday afternoon. It's absolutely ridiculous. And because of that, this is a great spot for Newcastle. I think maybe you look at them for a first half double chance at -141. Tired legs for Man City. Also, you saw in that lineup, absolutely terrible without Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne. They have no midfield without Kevin De Bruyne and without Gundogan. And maybe Kovacic can get to Gundogan's level, but in this moment right now, it's what we talked about in his preview show. He doesn't have the experience in the Guardiola system that Gundogan does, and he's absolutely struggling. He's not adding anything that Gundogan was adding. And then Foden, I don't know if he had one significant key pass in yesterday's matchup trying to take over for De Bruyne there at the number 10. So midfield struggling. Ake Ake looks absolutely terrible as a center back. They're going to hope John Stones is fit, can come back in for Ake, because on the ball, you can pressure him and you can get turnovers and you can create chances. I like Newcastle maybe on a full game double chance at plus money. I certainly like them in the first half to come out with more of the aggression, more of the energy here, and hold a first half double chance at minus 141. Loving Newcastle. Would love to get your thoughts on this one, Matt.
I totally am in agreement with you. I mean, I think that the travel to Greece, it's absolutely ridiculous from the Premier League, because you want your best players fit in this league. I mean, that's how it's such an attractive league. I mean, because we get to see the best. And I think that, let's say you're holding a Man City to win this league ticket, boy, you're got to be feeling scared a little bit there with no De Bruyne. I mean, that is a real concern. He is the best player in this league. He's probably the best ever player in the Premier League's history. I mean, really, when you look at what he's done for Manchester City, he is everything. They still have, great replacements. I mean, it's Manchester City, but, that crossing ability, the unpredictability that De Bruyne brings to them is what makes them so good. So, yeah, I think rightly so. Newcastle have been bet here. I think it was like Man City at minus 175 earlier in the week. Now that's down to minus 150. I think the travel spot to Greece, then this. And then also just on the back of, look how good Newcastle looked last week. I thought that Villa were pretty damn good themselves, and Newcastle just blew them away. I think that this is also, Jason, a really good both teams to score an over 2.5 spot as well. I think that this is one that I could see myself having like two bets and staking them both maybe at half units, is like a both teams to score an over 2.5 and a Newcastle +1. I think that those are two very, very tough. Newcastle are going to be up and ready for this one. And this is the time to take on a man. I mentioned this on the preview show. The only time that City ever really vulnerable is kind of at the beginning of their seasons. They get off to slowish starts. I think that they were, gifted a cakewalk really against a Burnley side last week. And I thought that Burnley even, they showed some good fight against Manchester City. They created some decent chances. And I don't expect City to dominate this game like they did, against Burnley. This is a completely different quality of opponent. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Give me Newcastle +1 at minus 150. Give me both teams to score and over 2.5. Isak looks ready to go. He is in brilliant form, brilliant striker. I think that, if you wanted to get with it, you could maybe even do like a Haaland and Isak to score in this match parlay kind of thing. I think that both of those guys have a really good chance of scoring in this one.
Couple things to comment on what you said there. You said Newcastle +1. I went back on you in chat and said, hey, get the cash if they only lose by 1 and find yourself a parlay. You can get minus 200 for +1.5. So maybe keep that in mind. I don't know. I'm torn on the over or the under. I actually lean on the under. And if I get John Stones to fit and replace Ake, the under to me is the play as opposed to the over. And always taking an under in a City match always makes you nervous. But because of the whole Greece thing, because they're just not clicking offensively, this is Newcastle, right? This is championship caliber football. That's how good Newcastle is these days. I think City's going to struggle a little bit against them, more than just a little bit. They are awful. And I did pull up the stats from yesterday's game. My apologies to Phil Foden. You had 3 key passes in the match. I don't remember them, but StatCast wants to give you 3 key passes, so my bad, man. And then they've got a Haaland issue. Haaland didn't do a goddamn thing in yesterday's game. Haaland doesn't do a goddamn thing lately against any big clubs. Big clubs know how to figure him out, and Newcastle is a big club who will be in the Champions League this competition. So I'm not expecting much out of Haaland. I wouldn't bet on Haaland to score in this game. The big clubs are shutting him down. I don't even remember him having significant touches in yesterday's game. He gets frustrated on the pitch when he doesn't get passes into him. You see it with his body language. That'll eventually wear on these players, and they're probably going to get tired of seeing that crap. I lean on the under if I'm seeing John Stones for Ake. I love Newcastle getting a result. That we can both agree on, but I can't quite get there on an over. Maybe Everton or City may not sit back, but there's going to be some tired legs in that squad, and they're not going to be roaring to go, which is why I like Newcastle in that first half double chance minus 140. Really love that bet. Coming out early and taking advantage of the travel that City is going to have to do coming back from Greece. All right, let's see what we got here with Aston Villa taking on Everton. This is a game, when we talk about Newcastle Villa, I said there'll be goals. There'll be an over 2.5. I like Newcastle just because they're at home. But now you get Villa here at home at Villa Park, take on Everton. This feels like an Everton's going to squeak it out. Maybe like an Everton money line and under 4.5 goals. Could be your way in this. It's Sean Dice. They don't have a lot of great quality. It'll probably stay in under. That's my thinking, but not a great. I just think there's a lot of better. You got the over in Tottenham, you got the over at Wolves, you got a great spot from Newcastle. Better betting spots, but I do like Villa maybe parlayed with an under.
Yeah, I think just because Everton created, over 3 expected goals last week, I think that, and then you look at Villa's defense against Newcastle, I think it lends itself to this one being another over as well. Really, I think that Villa, they looked pretty damn good last week against Newcastle. Newcastle were just really up for it that day and on it, and they're very tough to beat at home. I kind of see this one as like a 2-1 to Villa. Personally, I think that Villa will bounce back. I think it's good. And I think that Everton maybe could be a bit deflated after, having such a big – they played really well and lost the match against Fulham. Yeah, this one is tricky, but I do kind of see goals here. Just because I think that Villa's got some real attacking quality. I think that Everton, when you look at them, like how much they created last week, but then you go back to look at Everton. They've only won once of their last 15 on the road in the Prem. But they have been a little bit better too. I mean, they've been able to not be beaten in 6 of their last 7 on the road. So they're really just struggling to get the victory on the road. But at the same time, they're keeping games close. So that I think that I would want to stay away from the winners market and see more from Villa. But I got a feeling goals are really here. I think that there's enough quality from both sides. We've got a healthy Calvert-Lewin for Everton. I think that makes a difference. And I think that Villa looked good still. Like I'm still high on Villa no matter the result last week.
Yeah, I'm not discouraged. That was at St. James Park. A lot of teams last season. Didn't Newcastle concede the least amount of goals last year in the league? They were definitely like 1 or 2. I mean, they're right up there. Mm-hmm. So I'm not discouraged. I'm with you. I don't know. I'm going to sit back, watch that one, see if I can gather some more information earlier on in this campaign, and then maybe fire off a bet next week on either one of those clubs, obviously depending on the matchup. All right, let's get a look here at West Ham. They're going to be taking on Chelsea. They got a Chelsea squad who got a 1-1 draw last week against Liverpool. Seemed like there was a lot of debate last week on social media of who was better, Chelsea, Liverpool. Liverpool better early, Chelsea maybe overall. But if that game's played at Anfield, it's probably the complete opposite, and Liverpool looks better. It's probably just a product of it being played at Stamford Bridge. Those are 2 even match clubs. West Ham, nailed that result last week. It's the only one I got right on that app. I got 1-1 in Bournemouth, West Ham. I don't know. This one's going to be tough. Chelsea's still working in a lot of new players. Casado going to work in another new player. He's going to slide in now next to Enzo. Still a bloated squad with this Chelsea squad. I thought this summer was going to be like trim the fat. All we've done is like acquire more fat, it feels like, with Chelsea. It feels like another bloated squad. It's going to be unhappy players, and we're still trying to work in all these chemistry issues, which you mentioned on the season-long preview show. So I struggle. Probably like a both teams to score. I think probably hits in this game. You probably like West Ham at home on their season debut here at home to find the back of the net. So maybe a both teams to score is probably where I'm at, and that's probably it on this one.
I agree. I think that that's the only angle that I even kind of like, but not enough to bet. You also look at Reece James. It sounds like he picked up a hamstring injury.
Oh, boy.
We know that. I mean, he's their captain. I mean, he's a big-time player for them. He's so good down the right flank, and he was great last week against Liverpool. And I think you touched on it right. if Mo Salah is, he was a millimeter off sides to take it to 2-0 Liverpool, and I think the game would have probably been done and dusted. After that, it definitely became Chelsea's game to win, and I thought that overall they looked better than Liverpool. They dominated Liverpool, which was shocking. Now you bring in Caicedo, and the prospect of having Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez in the middle is really, really nice. And, those two players can really elevate this squad. I mean, that's the best two midfielders, really in this league probably. And now they're paired together. So they're going to be really tough. I think that Chelsea did get better, but I mean, Reece James continues to get injured. So they really need him to stay fit, because I think he is such an important part for them, because he's the guy that's whipping in those good crosses down the right flank. Now they'll probably be a little bit more predictable and going down Chilwell's left flank. What Reece James does, he does create the unpredictability. They can go down the right or left. So not having him here is pretty big. This is a tough match to predict, that I'm just going to leave. I would lean with both teams to score, because I do like West Ham's attacking quality still and their front line. And, I kind of see this as maybe like a 2-1 to Chelsea here. But both teams to score at like -110 seems pretty fair.
I also thought, in looking at the cards angle, I know it's a little bit early to be firing out data, only one game, but this, if you're into cards, and we did see it in the first match week, we were seeing more cards than usual for the reasons we talked about on the preview show. This is probably your best angle for cards in this, of these 9 games you've got in the weekend in the Premier League, West Ham, Chelsea. So if you like cards, maybe this one's one to take a stab at there. All right, let's go ahead and move it over to Monday's fixture. It's the last one. It's at Selhurst Park, where we've got Crystal Palace taking on Arsenal. Look at this matchup, and you kind of talked about how Arsenal performed there against Forest. I'm going to chalk more of that up to just coming out of the gates and, getting your feet up under you. Arsenal is the better team. I know, Chelsea or Crystal Palace did get the win there up against Sheffield, but that was Sheffield. This is now Arsenal. I like Arsenal to edge it out. But I wouldn't take them on a margin. It's a 2-1 kind of victory, maybe 1-0, 2-0. But if they pop a margin victory, I think that second goal, comes late, maybe when Palace is pushing it. I still like Arsenal's defense. It's still very strong, obviously, with the addition there of Declan Rice. They lose Timber due to the ACL injury, but hopefully Zinchenko may be able to come back. I like it. I like Arsenal to get the win. It'll be sweaty. It won't be easy, but I do like Arsenal to pull it out.
Yeah, I think it'll be sweaty too. I mean, you look at Palace, 9 of their last 10 at home. They're undefeated. So they are tough to beat here. I wanted to touch on the Michael Olise news. And it's about time somebody stood up to Chelsea, really. Chelsea activated his release clause, and Crystal Palace say, look, we're going to take you to a tribunal on this one. And Chelsea just kind of immediately back off, and Crystal Palace sign him to a 4-year extension. They really needed that after losing Zaha. I mean, they really put it to Chelsea on that one. So credit to Palace. Arsenal lose out though on Urian Timber. That was a big ACL. He was looking so good in preseason for them. It sounds like Zinchenko is back into training, so maybe he can be a go.
Maybe
but I just think that
or something, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how many minutes he can get here, but I just think that Arsenal's quality will shine out here, and I think that they have enough. I don't know, the XG battle at home against Forest, which is definitely a concern, but I think that they have enough to scrape it here.
Yeah, I think they do. Palace, they even had 2 goals disallowed against Sheffield. But again, that's Sheffield, right? That's a team that was in the championship last year. This is the team that finished second in the league and was in first place majority of the league last season. This is a step up than Sheffield, obviously. I'm with you. All right, Arsenal's going to squeak it out. Let's go ahead and throw our bets up here on the screen, or At least the ones that I've got. And then we'll give you, our parlay of the week. We'll give you our parlay. Matt gives you a leg, I give you a leg, and we call that our Between the Post parlay of the week. In terms of straight bets and bets for myself, I'm going to double dip on Friday's action. I'm doing that Forest team total, and I'm doing both teams to score. I'm going to do the best over of the week in Wolves Brighton. Second best over of the week, but it's kind of juicy, so you got to add on both teams to score of Tottenham United. I like Newcastle in that first half on a double chance. Double chance means win or tie if you're new to soccer. And I think Newcastle can do that in the first half. What are you adding, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to add Forest with you. I think that Forest get the job at home on Friday night. I like, obviously, the over 2.5 and Wolves Brighton. That's kind of my strongest feel of the week. Both teams to score and over 2.5 and Spurs United. And that's going to be it until the two-leg parlay.
Two-leg parlay. What is Matt referring to? Every single week, we like to give you a between-the-post parlay. Last week, parlay was a winner. You were on Man City money line. I did Brighton on that team total. Let's go ahead and see what we'll be doing this week. All right, let's go ahead and throw off that parlay there. The parlay this week comes in at minus 106. We were at minus 108 last week. This will be on my card. I'm on the Liverpool leg. I think they'll hit their over 2.5 team total if you want to do that. But because we're in a parlay, we'll drop it down a little bit, and I'll do over 1.5 for my leg.
Yeah, I like the Arsenal money line. I think that they do scrape it against Palace, but it will be tricky. I think if you don't like that one, we kind of touched on maybe Newcastle plus 1.5 against Man City. Kind of hold your nose against the best team in the world, but it's a good angle.
I'd say it really is a good one. All right, Matt, another good show. Another good time hanging out with you, previewing the 9 games it was in the Premier League. Come on back next Thursday, same time, same channel. We'll preview match week number 3 in the Premier League. Oh, one other thing. One other thing. NBC Sports Predictor App. Wanted to talk about that here for half a second. Messaged a couple of you guys on Twitter. And if you don't know, the app took an update. New logo, new name, same contest. You're no longer getting $50,000. You're getting $5,000. And they also removed the league group information. So because they removed the league group information, obviously there's nothing for us to compete against amongst our fellow Winning Bet supporters. So I've already deleted the app on my phone. So that's the last we'll ever speak of the old NBC Sports Predictor app. So it's so unfortunate. It was a great app. Now it's a piece of shit, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. All right, Matt. See you back here next week, man.
Yep. See you, Jason. Thanks so much.